Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the KeenGamer podcast. My name is Kyle, and we got a great show for you this week. But first, we got to introduce our guest. Welcome back to the show, Noah. Welcome back, Noah.
Hey, it's good to be back, Kyle.
Awesome. Happy New Year, by the way.
Yep, you as well.
So we are back to talking about video games full force. I know last week we did something a bit different with our Marvel episode, but now we are back to doing what we did throughout all of last year. We're going to start by talking about the games that we're currently playing. We'll go into news after that. And then at the very end of the show, we have a topic to discuss, being our most anticipated games of 2022. Hopefully, every game on our list comes out in 2022. That's the hope. But first, we're going to start with the games that we're currently playing. And I'll go first because Elden Ring comes out next month. And I thought I should probably play a few more FromSoft games before it happens. So I'm currently playing Dark Souls Remastered for the first time. And while I don't have anything new to say about Dark Souls 10 years later, I will join the bandwagon of saying, man, the game is beautiful, often fun, often very frustrating. It is incredibly ambiguous with its storytelling, very vague in terms of telling you where to go and what to do. Noah, have you played Dark Souls? I forget.
I haven't personally, but I've seen it played.
Yeah. So I've seen friends play it. I know a lot of people who are obviously really into the Souls games. And for context, I've played Sekiro and Demon Souls. So this is like my third Souls kind of game. Um, and Dark Souls to me just kind of feels like the hardest of the three right off the gate. Like the first boss you fight in Dark Souls kicked my ass like 8, 10 times, I think, before I kind of took a break and came back to it the next day. I'm having a hell of a time with it. It's just a game that I always tell people never be ashamed to use a guide while playing a game, and I have no shame in using one for Dark Souls. Because I'll be playing it and I'll look at my guide and it'll say, also, just so you know, if you roll across this beam, hit this wall 7 times with your sword, spin around 5 times while singing Candy Shop by 50 Cent, then you'll get a cool new weapon. Like stuff like that I don't know how to figure out. I don't know how people figured it out back in the day when the first game first came out, but you know, I'm having fun with it. I probably have, I think, 5 bosses left plus the DLC. So I'm pretty much at the part where every single boss is going to be a day-long mission. Um, but I'm enjoying it. My original plan was to do Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 before Elden Ring. After Dark Souls 1, I'm already feeling super burnt out on the formula and the frustration. So it'll probably be my only Dark Souls game before Elden Ring comes out, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, not much more to say on a game that's, a legacy and a genre of its own. Just that I'm really enjoying it. If you haven't played Dark Souls, play it with a guide. It helps out a ton. Is it a game that you're looking into playing at some point, or are Souls games just not your cup of tea, Noah?
I wouldn't say I'm looking to play it. I'll definitely check it out if I need a game and I see it
Mm-hmm.
on the Xbox Game Pass free games, and then I check it out.
Yeah, that'd be a great Game Pass game. I don't think it is, but it'd be cooler if people could kind of hop into the world of Dark Souls without having to pay money, like the price of admission for a game that you might not finish. Fortunately, I got it used, I think, for like $15 a couple years ago. So it's been sitting on my shelf, getting a little dusty, and I finally had time to play it. So hopefully, I will have it beat by Wednesday or Thursday. That is the goal. Um, so Dark Souls, I am playing and I'm enjoying. You, my friend, are playing Halo Infinite. And how's that going for you?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. And I've definitely gotten better since last time we talked.
Mm-hmm.
I Yeah, the multiplayer is pretty fun if you pick kind of the right game types. I prefer what's on the quick play menu and also the Fiesta game type. Those are, to me at least, a bit more fun than Big Team Battle.
Can you explain the Fiesta? I don't think I played that yet.
So it's kind of I think it's Team Slayer that they spawn everyone with like random weapons. That
Oh,
kind
cool.
of like free for all kind of, you got to use what you have,
Yeah.
and yeah, and use it effectively, and it's fun. I like it.
So one person will drop with grenades, somebody else will drop with like a plasma sword. Is that how that kind of works?
Yeah, exactly. And if you end up with something that's terrible, then you kind of look around, look for something to pick up, and it's this, this rigmarole that you've got to get through. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's cool that the game gives you the challenge. And you have to kind of puzzle solve your way. Like, how do I make this work to my advantage?
yeah,
I've been enjoying the quick play matches as well. I haven't played any of Halo campaigns. I've been playing a little bit of the multiplayer, and I like the smaller maps. And I don't know if it's just me personally, but I like respawning in and just seeing an enemy within like 5 seconds and starting to shoot.
yeah. I kind of get that too. Like with big team battle, there's a few of the big maps in circulation, and they're just not hitting as well as, let's say, the Halo Reach big team
Mm,
battle maps did. I'm
yeah,
not even sure what exactly it is, but yeah, it's just
nothing
not
as
quite
iconic as like the Halo 3 maps or any of
right.
those good ones. But you've been enjoying a lot of the multiplayer, essentially.
Yeah, the multiplayer it's growing on me. It's not my favorite thing
Hmm.
ever, but it's growing on me.
Yeah, for me, it's the fact that it's free definitely helps. Like the fact that I can just like download it, hop in without paying a cent is awesome. I also saw, I think 2 days ago, they announced that they're gonna lower the price of all the cosmetics
Mhm.
in the store, which is kind of nice. I don't really use cosmetics because it's a first person game and I can't see what
Right.
I look like ever unless I'm dead on the ground. But um, multiplayer aside, any like overall thoughts on the campaign you'd like to share?
Sure. So it's fun. I'll give it that. Like at
Hmm.
first, the open world thing was off-putting it to me, but it's fun. I enjoy driving around using that grappling hook. Yeah, just looking for enemies, looking for weapons. It's a
Hmm.
fun experience.
I feel like last time we talked, you were saying that when you were using the grappling hook, you may have been having a hard time judging the how much distance can be between you and the
Yeah.
object you want to grapple onto. Has that gotten better as you've played around with it more?
Yeah, I've gotten more used to it. I
Hmm.
definitely use that better than I was. You kind of have to think Spider-Man when you do
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, and you essentially it's used as an escape, kind of like if you're getting shot, you need to get
Hmm.
out of there. Like you turn right, you shoot your grappling hook, and it gets you out of there quick.
So you'd say it's more of like a defensive item than an offensive item?
Yeah, at least in combat, and
Hmm.
yeah, and you also use it to get around the map, like if you need to get over a structure.
Yeah. I've
Yeah,
seen people using it to like kick enemy players off their vehicles and stuff. I feel like that's been the
yeah.
most practical use I've seen is like kicking somebody off their I can't remember the vehicle names right now. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but
Mhm.
that seems like a lot of fun. In the campaign, is there only one grappling hook or do you get like multiple types of grappling hooks or is it just the one standard?
Well, there's the standard, then you get these things called, I think they're just called upgrades, where you can upgrade your equipment features. So for that one, I think it adds like an electric shock if you hit it with an enemy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So like elemental type hook shots.
Yeah, it's definitely worth like that's really the equipment I use, at least in the
Mhm.
campaign. That it was always the grappling hook for me. The other ones, I just don't see like why you'd ever choose that over the grappling hook.
Yeah, it's kind of just like the good go-to right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then
exactly.
are you playing this on Xbox? You doing it on PC?
On my new Xbox Series X.
Congratulations on the
Yeah,
Series X.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, did you get that for the holidays or?
No, I've been on Twitter because that's like you've got to be on it if you're trying
Yeah.
to get one. So I think early January, like I saw Best Buy has them, and it said 22 minutes ago Best Buy posted and they've got them. So I figured, why not? I'll give it a
Yeah.
try. And sure enough, I ended up getting one. So I drove
Wow.
down to the Best Buy 40 minutes away and picked it up.
And you said it was a Series X, correct?
Yeah, Series X, the
Yeah.
big black box.
And how's it looking on your TV? Like, are you noticing a like great fidelity? I haven't talked to many people with the Series X, so I'm definitely curious what you think about the hardware.
It's great. Controller is, I'd say, the best Xbox controller I've ever held. It's comfortable. Has this great texture on the triggers,
That's
and
bold because people love the 360 controller. I know people today who will still use a
yeah,
360 controller for PC and stuff.
yeah. So I guess I like this one better than that. I do get the appeal of wired controllers though, because batteries are very expensive. But
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, and it also runs great. Like
hmm
it is the same base operating system as the Xbox One, but that will change eventually. But yeah, it runs so much better than the Xbox One does.
Yeah, and it boots up fast. Load
Yeah,
times are good.
yeah, like great.
Yeah, well, that can change a gaming experience like all the way through. Have you rolled credits on the campaign, or you're still playing through it?
Oh, I've rolled credits. Yeah,
Oh,
I've played
okay,
all the way
interesting,
through. But you
interesting.
can't replay individual levels right now.
Yeah,
They haven't added that yet.
yeah. I guess it's like probably a good PSA for anybody listening who's like, Halo. I should probably hop into that soon. There's still no co-op missions, if I'm correct, and you can't replay any missions. You have to go through the entire thing in one run.
Yeah, it's this weird open world hybrid. So
hmm
yeah, like one of the things I work on off and off, when I'm not writing anything, is I'm trying to define what exactly an open world game is, and
Yeah,
it's really difficult. So yeah, you have this linear progressing campaign, and you do have
hmm
side missions. You can't go back and play campaign levels. So yeah, I guess it is open world.
yeah. It
Yeah,
kind of like
I'm
blurs the
not sure.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's interesting because I'm the next game I'm going to talk about is incredibly open world to the point where it has every single requirement. You have to climb something to see more of the map. You have icons everywhere. You can replay everything. So now that you've rolled credits, you're still playing Halo multiplayer. Um, do you see yourself burning out anytime soon, or is this still something you are eager to play and you think you'll be playing for the next little while?
I think I'll play it for the next little while, especially since it's kind of being released in waves. I
hmm
think I'll definitely get way into it when Forge and custom games comes out.
Yeah. And as far as you know, they haven't released like a roadmap of we are dropping co-op on this day, or we're dropping new maps on this day. Like 343 hasn't shared any of that information, really. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's no concrete
Oh, okay.
template, but yeah, and
Yeah.
I think they do announce things in advance. I'm pretty sure I knew about the campaign like at least a week before it came out.
Yeah. Typically they give it some time, but I wasn't sure if they're letting consumers know, like, hey, just so you know, you'll be able to replay missions at the end of January. Um, yeah, I'll be curious. I want to play the campaign, and I talked to you before this show. I'd never played a Halo campaign before. But for me, it's like I could just use a good FPS game right now. I don't have one lined up. So for me, just to go through and play a really, really good one of those sounds like a lot of fun because I've heard the gameplay and the gunplay and the grunt dialogue is some of the best stuff coming from the campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a fun campaign. For veterans, I wouldn't say it lives up to the original free Halos,
Yeah,
but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more than I did Halo 5.
yeah. I haven't talked to anyone yet who says they enjoy Halo 5 more than Infinite. I'm sure they're
Uh,
out there, but I haven't talked to them yet.
yeah, a lot of people really didn't like Halo 5.
hmm
I'd say it probably was my least favorite. I wouldn't say that I despise that game.
Yeah, I mean, least
Yeah.
favorite of a series doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means, unfortunately, it's the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, it did have like it had its moments.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I guess a lot of people don't like that story. Like they didn't
Okay.
like not being Master Chief in the main series Halo game, which I think is a little bit prude. Like, yeah, I think like there comes a point where you have to move on from a character. Like, are we gonna be watching Master Chief for forever? Like he's kind of a dense guy. Like
I mean,
you're going to
Didn't
want to see someone else eventually.
didn't they already do this in Halo 2 campaign though, where halfway through you stop being Master Chief and you end up playing as a different character?
Yeah, that's totally true. You spend a lot of time as the Arbiter, and
Yeah.
and that was very artistically well done because you were seeing in the Covenant's equivalent of Master Chief, like
Hmm.
a very good war hero, except he's treated so differently because he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like I said, it's weird that they do it in 2, and I think that's
yeah,
pretty like commonly like people love that moment in 2 when they do the character swap. But
yeah. That's great.
for them to do it in 5, everyone's like, "Boo! I want to be Master Chief all the time." It's kind of just a weird shift in the perception of that twist.
Yeah, fans can be rough, and they can be stubborn, especially when it comes to nostalgia.
And the most upset fans are usually the loudest.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's all it usually takes. So that's good to hear about Halo Infinite. Like I said, I played some multiplayer last year. I do want to hop into the campaign, so it's not off my list of games I want to play by any means. The other game I've been playing, like I was saying earlier, I'm playing Dark Souls because Elden Ring is coming out. There's a different game coming out in February that I have not played the original game to, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn. And I've had Horizon Zero Dawn once again on my shelf for maybe 3 years. And with the new one coming out, I thought I have to hop into this game. Um, and it is a PS4 game, but they did drop a PS5 patch for it a few months ago that makes it run at 60 FPS on a PS5. Horizon Zero Dawn, to this day, might be one of the best looking games I've ever played. Like yesterday or last night when I was playing it, there's a like every game, how hard you hold up on your left stick will depend on how fast your character runs or moves. I was like just lightly holding it forward and like walking at the slowest pace and just like absorbing the atmosphere, absorbing the environment. The day night cycle is looks gorgeous. The way that you can see the sunset and the sunrise. It's a gorgeous game. I'm not super far into it. I'm probably 5 hours, I'd say. So I don't have a huge analysis on the overall story, besides the fact that I think Aloy is a fantastic character. And I can't wait to see more of what she does in this game as well as in the next game. If I were to have a critique about Horizon Zero Dawn, I think it throws a lot at you in the first couple hours. And when I say it throws a lot at you, it tells you how to shoot a bow. It tells you how to plant traps. It tells you how to ride machines if you want to. There's a lot in that opening couple hours that I wish was spread out over the first 5 or 6. That way I can learn mechanics and start utilizing them one at a time instead of learning 10 things and trying to combine all of them at once. So, kind of my main complaint up at the front. But like I was saying to Noah before, this is a open world game. There's giant dinosaurs that you climb, and when you do that, you get a better idea of the map, and icons will unlock for you. There's side quests. There's multiple different kinds of missions, whether you're fighting dinosaurs or you're fighting humans. The combat is lots of fun. You got bows and arrows. You got a melee weapon. It almost feels like a Breath of the, or not Breath of the Wild, but like a Legend of Zelda that way, just based off of your tool set, which I really enjoy. And it is the game that I am dying the most to get back to. I know Dark Souls is a bit of a journey. Like I was saying, I'll put like 2 hours into it a day and then call it quits because either I'm frustrated or I don't want to play anymore. So Horizon has been that really nice kind of it's been like a safe place almost. I can go into that world, I can live in that world, I can just exist in it. I can, do side quests, I can do main campaign missions. Really, there's just so much to do. And I can do it at my own pace, which is so nice. Because in Dark Souls, it's like, what am I going to do? Walk around for a bit or go into that room with 20 enemies that kill me in the first hit? I mean, what am I going to do? So I've been enjoying it. I don't know if I'll have it beat by the time the new game comes out in February, because I know it's a pretty lengthy game. Most open world games are. But I also have the version that has the DLC, the Frozen Wilds, with it. So I got a whole 60-hour campaign as well as like 10, 15 hours of DLC to play. And for Forbidden West comes out, I think, February 22nd. So I probably won't be hopping into Forbidden West right away. But I'm definitely enjoying this first game, and I'm super super eager to see what they do with the sequel. I forget. Yeah, I think they did port Horizon to PC as well a while ago. So if you don't have it on PlayStation, I definitely recommend it on PC as well. And yeah, not much more to say about Horizon Zero Dawn. January is the best time to get rid of backlog games. There's nothing coming out right now. So I'm looking at my shelf being like, cool, Dark Souls, Horizon. I might knock out some other backlog games. So it's a good time to catch up. And then finally, Noah, the other game you have on your list is that you've been playing infamously Fallout New Vegas. One of the best games of the generation, of that generation anyway.
Yeah, so being the Bethesda expert that I am, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people like are surprised. I've never played New Vegas. That of
Mm,
course is one of the best spin-offs of all time. It's made by Obsidian, and they did that game. So I'm not very far yet, and I did want to try it because it was on Game Pass for free, and I was like, oh, well, I've got to play this.
right, because you have the Series X now, so you can just do all the Game Pass. Or I mean, you had Xbox One before, but in
Yeah.
terms of the Game Pass selection, having all of the Bethesda stuff there for you is so nice.
Yeah, it really is. I think that I did pay for Morrowind and Oblivion, so I kind of wish
Mm.
I had held off on that one. But you know what? It was only probably $50 for the games and the DLCs, so and I got to play them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and
so
I couldn't remember because
yeah.
Obsidian they made Fallout 2 and some of the original Fallouts before the IP was bought by Bethesda.
Well, they didn't make Fallout 2, and I think some of what yeah, so that history is the original two Fallouts were developed by a studio called Black Isle Studios, and they were owned by Interplay Entertainment.
Hmm.
And then Interplay went bankrupt, and they started liquidating assets, and Bethesda ended up with Fallout.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into that, but a lot of those, I don't know. Let me think. I'm not certain, but I think some of those employees ended up with Obsidian.
Yeah, that would make sense. And
Yeah,
thanks for correcting me because I was
yeah,
skimming a Wikipedia page like 2 seconds
yeah,
ago, and I did see the Black Isle games
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I can't think of anyone specifically, but I do. Yeah, I do think that's part of why they wanted to spin off because they had some employees. So yeah, and they did New Vegas after Fallout 3 with that engine, and a lot of people just really love it. And
Hmm.
right now, I'm trying to plan my character, and I've kind of grasped like how you approach that in this one as opposed to other Fallout's.
Yeah.
Like
How far into New Vegas are you? Just off the top of your head, 5 hours, couple hours?
five may be about right. I've
Okay.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to get money to buy it implants.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're called implants because I want to max my endurance
Hmm.
because you need that to get your special as high as it will go. I'm very used to my completionist style of play where you just max everything, then play the game just how you want to play it in the moment with all your things maxed. But
Hmm.
I guess you can't really do that in New Vegas, so you know what? There's nothing to be done about it. So I'm just gonna try to prioritize combat
Yep.
and yeah, and see where I go.
My only experience with New Vegas is I have it for the PS3, but
Like,
unfortunately I had a corrupted version of the install
oh,
or something. So I could do the opening part where you wake up and you talk to the old guy in the small town, but the
mhm.
borders of the opening area were just never-ending pits to nowhere. S-
Really?
So as soon as I stepped outside of the town, my character would fall beneath the map and just keep falling until I turned the console off. And I've uninstalled and reinstalled and done everything I can, but that's my New Vegas experience.
Wow. The only thing I could think of like that is in one of the Fallout 3 DLCs, Into the Pit.
Mm,
There's this area in the steel yard, like on the roofs, where you have to go to try and get some of the steel ingots if you're trying to get all of them.
hmm.
And a lot of players, including me, will have this bug where you end up falling through it.
Oh,
Uh,
you fall through. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that sounds awful. And like I said, it was a PS3 version of the game, so maybe it just wasn't the best way of playing New Vegas. And now that it's on Game Pass, I should try it again because I have it on PC now. But yeah, that's been my experience. But as somebody who has played Fallout 3 mostly, I always hear from people that New Vegas is their absolute favorite. And from like the 5 hours you put into your file, is there anything that indicates why people would like it more than the other ones, or is it too early to tell?
I guess like looking at the intro and examining the setting, I do like the Mojave Wasteland. That
Mm,
I it, I think it may be the first game to call it that in Fallout's 1 and 2, since they were just figuring themselves out. I don't think they named individual like regions like that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I do like walking around, seeing cacti, seeing a desert. It works well with the post-apocalyptic setting.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't expect it to. You'd think it'd be too much, but it really isn't. Like for people that live over there, that's what the world looks like when you walk
yeah.
outside.
Have you been
Yeah.
able to get to like Nevada at all in your file? Like, have you seen like the actual big city in its Fallout form?
I haven't been inside, but I have seen it.
Okay,
And yeah, it
yeah,
looks cool.
I'd be very curious about like the art design, what they would do to make Las Vegas look run down. I guess maybe I'm thinking of that Army of the Dead movie that came out last year with zombies in Las Vegas, but
Right.
aesthetically, I'd be really curious to see what they would do with like broken down slot machines and neon signs.
Right. And it looks like part of the city is like still in working order. And
Mm,
I think that's part of where the story is going, is that there's this guy who kind of controls this part of Vegas that did pretty well in the atomic blast and
mm-hmm.
still functions pretty well, has electricity and all that. So I definitely think that's part of where this is going, and it's interesting. I think that might be why a lot of people like this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be very curious to find out as well.
Yeah.
Have you seen any new creatures? Because I know each Fallout has like its own kind of biomes and creatures that they turn into kind of atomic monsters. Have you seen anything new that you've never seen in a Fallout game before, enemy wise?
Yeah, so there is some familiarity. I've seen death claws,
Yeah.
and I've also seen these bugs that aren't like bloat flies,
Mm,
or those mosquito looking things that you'd see in Fallout's 3 and 4. So
yeah.
like desert kind of bugs. So that's interesting. I have seen rad scorpions
Hmm.
too. So there's that uniformity that the Fallouts kind of have, with a few standards, then a few
Like
unique
specific
regional
ones.
variants. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Because I remember playing Fallout 76 a bit last year during the pandemic and finding like the Mothman and just like very kind of area specific creatures, which is like always very cool to me.
Yeah. I wouldn't say Fallout's 3 and 4 have a lot of variety in the biomes, and I think that disappointed some people. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, like how different is, and well, part of that is that they're real places. You wouldn't say that DC is really that different than the Boston area.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you end up with kind of similar looking things, similar creatures, but but what can you do?
Yeah. So I guess last question. When Fallout 5 comes out in 2030, where do you want it to take place? And even if you want, it can take place outside of America. I don't know if that's ever
Yeah.
been thought of before, but that'd be kind of cool too.
So it has, and that's something
Hmm.
a lot of people kind of are looking for. Like I know England's been thrown around a lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and some people have called for China,
Hmm.
because they were one of the participants in the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, but being having a largely English speaking audience, I guess they're hesitant to go in that direction. And
Hmm.
I have thought about where Fallout 5 would take place, and I do know of it, that what yeah, so Bethesda has what they call a one pager about Fallout 5. I
Okay.
forget where I saw that, and they have this, but yeah, and they have this document that's it says like what they'd want the plot to be, what the setting would be about Fallout 5, but because they're moving ahead with Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 first, it's subject to change and all that. It's a game that's
Yeah.
probably not coming out until 2030.
Minimum.
Yeah, so you got to take that with a grain of salt, but I thought about it, and there's there are places that exist because they've been mentioned in Fallout games, so
Mm.
we know that they're canon and that they exist, and I have
Yep.
theorized about kind of where I think they're talking about before, just based on the names.
Okay.
But I actually don't think that it'll be one of those places. I actually theorize that it will be Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
That'd
which
be.
for me, it it's something I look forward to because
Mhm.
I'm from the area,
Yeah.
and I adore the awesome might of the Philadelphia Eagles,
Yep.
who are going to be defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a little while. That's them
Yep.
to do after this. It witness them do that. Watch
Yep.
Tom Brady sit there with his head down, being defeated by the Eagles once again.
It must
So
feel good to be on that end of it.
yeah, of course, if those things don't happen, I'm to be slightly disappointed. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? There's a chance they win today. Yeah. So the reason I'm thinking Philadelphia is because they've just done a very unorthodox Fallout game with Fallout 76.
Mhm.
So I think that Bethesda and also a lot of the fans are going to be looking for a return to something more along the lines of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4.
Mhm.
So for those, they both entail an East Coast kind of location with some historical significance to the United States of America. Especially Boston, they did a lot of Revolutionary War stuff in there. The Minutemen,
Yeah.
those laser muskets that look kind of silly, but
Yeah.
yeah. So Philadelphia is mentioned in Fallout 3 in one of Abraham Washington's terminal entries. He says, God, can I recite it? Uh, no, I can't recite
Okay.
it. Yeah, it's this paragraph where he says that someone says that they have a piece of the Liberty Bell, and because he's a collector of history and memorabilia, they tell him, "Hey, do you want this piece of the Liberty Bell? I got it from the ruins of Philly." And then he says "Poppy Rock" in the terminal. That's the part I remember. He uses the word "Poppy Rock" to
Poppy
express
rock.
excitement. Yeah, so I was like, all right. And I remember specifically it being called Philly, which I found very interesting that the slang would last that long. But I wouldn't say Philly's really slang, but someone not familiar with the area might not know that people call it that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
don't short form something just because you think you can. Always make sure if
right.
the local said it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually theorized when I was making my map of all the Fallout locations and where I think the ones that we've never seen are. I chose to name the Philadelphia area Delphia
Mhm.
because I figured let's not call it the something because we've seen that before. Let's just call it Delphia. I have no
Delphia.
idea what the plot would be, but it's the city that makes sense to me. It's about the right size. These new consoles can handle more, and Philly's
Mhm.
like just about the right size more than what they've done in the past to be the new setting. So that's what I'd say I expect.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
definitely curious now that Bethesda has that Microsoft backing, if they will try and implement like Fallout 76 features in the next mainstream Fallout game. I wonder if there'll be some
Yeah.
sort of online connectivity or monthly events like they do in 76. I'll be curious
Right.
if like with the billions of dollars that they can use now for their games, how they can implement non-traditional Bethesda mechanics into their games, which will be interesting to track.
Right. So myself and a lot of fans included would want a co-op campaign.
That'd
They'd
be
want to,
awesome.
yeah, and they'd want to be able to invite a friend who's sitting at home with their own
Mhm.
console to their game and do quests together, which is something we've been calling for since Skyrim, and they gave us it. Well, when they didn't when they published it ESO, and we were like, this isn't really what we had asked. A
Mhm.
co-op campaign.
Well, that's the thing too, because
Yeah.
like I said, I was playing Fallout 76. I was not playing it by myself. It was like the game my friend and I, we couldn't hang out in person, so we were hanging out inside Fallout 76, and being able to live in that world with a friend and be like, where do you want to go, this way or this way? Do you want to take down the this boss or this boss? It was a lot of fun playing a Fallout game in co-op.
Yeah, I've actually never tried 76, except I was turned off by it. So
Yeah,
I haven't tried it yet. That maybe I will it eventually.
it's come a long way since launch. Like they've
Right.
fixed most of those bugs, and there is some cool content. But like, I'd recommend playing with somebody. I don't think it's a good single player Fallout. I think it is a good group game.
I'd have to make friends.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I only had the one,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so yeah, that game, like knowing what I know about it, like especially prior to the release, I was seeing it as Bethesda's version of what's it called? Come on, the huge game everyone was why can
like
I
a
not
like a No Man's Sky or
uh, Fortnite,
Fortnite.
that game.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and they were trying to make their version of Fortnite to ride this this shared experience kind
yeah,
of train,
yeah.
and then the experience bugs. And that's the Bethesda train right there.
Not even bugs. Like they were messing up like pre-order. Like people had bought like if you pre-order the game, you got like a book bag and some stuff, and like the book bags arrived and they were destroyed. And at one point, I think they leaked player information. Like it was more than just a bug. Like it was a hot mess the entire way through. But
Yeah,
there's
well,
some cool ideas in 76. Like even in Fallout 4 when you're doing your base building and you're like, "Hey guys, look at the base I built," to all the NPCs, right? It'd be cool if
right.
you could work on a base and be like, "Hey guys, come check out my base. We can hang out in here almost like a GTA style apartment. Like come check out my
Mhm.
base, we'll hang out, we'll go kill some rad scorpions, have a few drinks." Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, New Vegas. I should probably reinstall New Vegas. Just talking about just like hearing about it a bit makes me want to step outside of the town for the first time. That'd be fun. So that's a wrap on the games that we're playing. Just a quick recap. We were talking about Dark Souls Remastered, Halo Infinite, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Fallout New Vegas. And now we're going to move into the news. It is only January 16th. There has been some news in the gaming world, but it has still been pretty slow since December. But there's two pretty interesting news stories that came out side by side. Last Wednesday, Sony announced that to help with the PS5 shortage, they're going to ramp up production on PS4s. So if you can't find a PS5, at least you can buy a PS4. The next day, Microsoft came out and said that they are no longer making Xbox Ones. You can only get the new console. These are very opposite approaches by two companies in a very similar boat. No, do you have any thoughts about like these two strategies and I guess which one is the better one?
Yeah, so I'm not sure which one would be better. I was talking to my friend about the Xboxes. So with those, you've got the Series S, right?
Yeah,
Is there a lesser PlayStation 5?
the Series S I don't think is as graphically powerful as an S, but or as sorry, as the PS5, but they're a lot more easily available and
Yeah,
they're about the same price as Xbox One X. Also, the
yeah,
Microsoft naming of consoles is very confusing, so I'm
it
trying to make
is.
sure I get the right
It's
the right
it's really
one.
terrible.
But you can get an Xbox Series X S pretty easily these days. Like you got the X, and I know that's what you had to wait for a Twitter alert
Yeah.
for. But the S is like pretty easily to find. PS5, unfortunately, there is only the one unit that Sony is
Mhm.
offering, and those are still very hard to find. For me, I think Microsoft is doing the best thing of the two companies because for people who want to play PS5 games, they don't want a PS4. I mean, they've had the
Yeah.
last 7 or 8 years to buy a PS4. If they wanted one, they would have got one already. Um, and the fact that Sony is continuing production on PS4s worries me about the quality of their games for the next little while. Because Sony is putting themselves in a situation where they have to produce games that run on both PS4 and PS5 for an even longer time than Xbox will have to.
Yeah, right. So I agree with you, Kyle. Yeah, no, now knowing that there is only the one PS5, yeah, I find it very confusing that they're going backwards because you're right. What's going to happen is they'll have to keep supporting both of them if they're going
Hmm.
to put money into making PS4s and try to sell them. And aren't they looking to raise the price to $70?
For the PS4 or for the games.
Yeah, for games that's what I was talking to my good friend about. Like he was saying, PlayStation's looking to raise the price to $70.
Well, I know PS5 games already cost more than PS4 games. Like since launch, they've cost $10 more at retail.
Right. So yeah. So who's gonna be willing to pay that on a PlayStation 4?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
especially if you think about it, you can get the PS4 version of a game, like say God of War Ragnarok comes out for PS4 and PS5. Sony usually offers the upgrade for free anyway. So you can
Hmm.
get the PS4 copy of the game, then hopefully if you get a PS5, you just do the free upgrade and you save $10, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
All right. So yeah,
Uh
that's a bit better.
and like I said with Horizon, I have the PS4 game, but when I put it inside my PS5, it's running in like a PS5 mode. So it's
Hmm.
not a, it's not the PS5 version of the game, but it's running like a PS5 game essentially. One thing as well, when it comes to PS5s and people who want PS5s, I was going through this article on Kotaku, and it's good to note that there are only 4 games right now that you can play on PS5, or that you can only play on PS5. Sorry, and those 5 games are Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Um, where is it? Yeah, Demon Souls, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, and Final Fantasy VII DLC. So anybody looking for a PS5, there really isn't a lot of games out there that you can only play on it. You can play everything else just fine on a PS4, but as somebody who's really looking forward to Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, these games are being made for PS4 and PS5. These are not going to be true next gen game releases because they have to run on both hardwares, like you were just saying.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas Microsoft, they are now able to put all of their development cost and funding into creating Xbox Series X and S games, the top of the
Yeah.
line. They don't have to worry about Xbox One or anything. So, as a Sony fan, I'm feeling a bit burnt by this, honestly.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the other things that I'm wondering that I was talking to the same friend about is we were thinking that when the Xbox One loses support and like when games no longer made for it, Microsoft will probably raise the price $10 too, and they'll probably go to $70.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
Yeah, and the impact of that will really intrigue me because what I expect to happen is for a lot of people to move to Game Pass,
Yep.
thing that makes a lot more financial sense. Like I'm on
Hmm.
it right now, and at least for my first few months with it, I'm very pleased. Like but all the games that I've wanted have been on there
Hmm.
for no additional cost, and I'm getting what used to be Xbox Live Gold out of that, being
Hmm.
I can play online, and that's going to be I think $180 for a year. So I should be saving money on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say as well. I had a thought and I lost it. Oh yes. So in terms of like raising the price of the games, Xbox, it doesn't really matter. They can charge $10 more for Starfield if they want, but at the end of the day, I'm getting it for free on Game Pass, most likely, I
Yeah.
believe. Whereas
Yeah.
Sony, until they introduce a Game Pass competitor, if I'm and like a lot of the Sony stuff is 15 to 20 hour single player games, right? So I'm paying $10 more for essentially the next Uncharted game, which will be 15 hours long or whatever. So the quantity of the product doesn't change, just kind of the quality, which I understand games are very expensive to make, but is adding $10 to my retail purchase of a game going to change that a lot? I don't know.
It, yeah, I expect people to move to streaming. I'm really not sure what's taken Sony so long with the move to streaming. That's the future.
Well, I'm definitely hearing rumors about their Project Scorpio, or not Scorpio. That's Xbox. Project Spartacus, I think is what it's called, and they're going to try and do Game Pass stuff this year. But once again, when you look at exclusives for both consoles right now, Xbox has Forza, they have Halo, they have Bethesda stuff coming up, they have some really great stuff. Sony, if they introduce Game Pass, you'll get Ratchet and Clank, Demon Souls, and Returnal. Like you'll get the
Hmm.
3 games they have, right? So time will tell. I'm very curious, especially with Sony investing money into a PSVR 2 that will run on PS5 only. Feels like Sony's putting a lot of hands into a lot of different places right now instead of just focusing on one market.
Hmm.
So yeah, any other thoughts on that stuff, Noah?
No, not that I could think of.
All right, perfect. So the other thing that happened a few days ago is that I kind of thought that this was going to happen with E3, but they announced it way earlier than I thought they would. But E3 is going to be digital only again this year, uh, due to obviously Omicron is an incredibly spreadable virus. They don't want to risk having an in-person event. But E3 is usually in June or July, so for them to cancel it in January, and from what I've heard from a lot of people in the game industry is that E3 was always planning on not being in person this year. E3 has not been a very successful event. And from what I'm hearing, these are kind of like the last dying whimpers from E3 that we're hearing. By the time 2023 rolls around, we might not even be talking about E3. Any thoughts about them going digital again this year?
But I support the move.
Yeah,
I
it's a safe move.
Yeah, I think it. It's out of any individual's control. That this is
Mhm.
what the officials have decided, and I respect it.
Yeah, especially after CES happened last week and they were doing in-person event, and it was jarring for me to watch footage of CES and seeing people in a room together, even like with masks on right now. It's just kind of a weird thing for me to see. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm all for keeping people safe. I
Hmm.
actually had COVID back before the vaccines. I
Yeah.
got very sick. But it wasn't the Omicron variant, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone.
No, and like I'm not sure how numbers are where you are, but like at least in Canada, we are pretty much like in a lockdown right now again. So in-person events aren't even a thing that you could do if you wanted where I am. So it depends on where you are and like geographically, but I think E3 is doing a good call to do digital only in the sense that E3 can get very overcrowded. I've heard stories about how tight that convention center can get with a bunch of people crammed into it. The only thing that worries me, like I said, is why do other companies like Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft need E3 if it's digital only? And those companies could just put out a video, a direct, or a Sony thing, just being like, "Hey guys, here's our plans for the rest of the year." Because I'm pretty sure they have to pay E3 for a spot in their schedule. So companies like Nintendo can just be like, you know what, we're not going to do E3 this year. Companies like Sony already haven't for the last 3 or 4 years. We're just going to do our own thing. And then I think by the time a year or two from now, when things can start coming back together, companies will be so used to relying on themselves to get information and trailers out there that they won't need E3 anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah. Because E3 was always a machine for driving hype and pre orders and sales. Even look at like E3 2018 when they announced Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah.
Like they only did that to help build hype and to open pre orders for that game that we're not going to see until what were we saying? Like maybe 2028? Maybe?
Well, let's see. 20. So Starfield will be out, and they'll do, assuming it doesn't flop terribly. Sorry, Todd. I don't think it will. But
Nope.
I think it's going to be great.
But they'll
So
probably do DLC for it and stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So for the rest of the year, there will be DLC, and lately companies have been extending the DLC period beyond just a year, so they may continue that.
Yeah.
And so let's see. So then Elder Scrolls 6, that assuming they haven't started anything, yeah, probably 2025, 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So E3 is a hype machine, and the video game market is so thirsty for good games right now that a company like Nintendo can just drop a trailer randomly one day, say this game's coming out in 2 months, and that's it. They don't need a big presentation. They don't need a stage for it. They don't need a crowd to react to it. Um, so yeah, no, I think that as we move on, the E3 will be forgotten, but maybe I'm wrong. So we'll see how that goes. Um, Speaking of, our final news story of the day is Nintendo dropped a trailer for the new Kirby game, and it comes out in March. You're not a Nintendo guy, am I correct, Noah?
Oh, well, I'm not a Kirby guy.
Yeah, I don't know many Kirby guys.
Right.
Have you played any of them before or not really?
I played. I think it's called Kirby Air Ride, where you're on the GameCube, and you have to like get vehicles to use in mini games. I didn't really get how you do that.
Yeah, no, I love Kirby Air Ride, and I guess like my stance on Kirby is that the spin-off games are always the best Kirby games. Like the mainline Kirby games where you're doing platforming and you're sucking in enemy abilities, those are all fine. For me, it's like Kirby Pinball, Kirby Air Ride, Kirby Canvas Curse. Those are the ones I really love. So I think this one is called Kirby in the Forgotten Land. I had the tab open, but I've lost it. Or is it Kirby in the Forgotten City?
And I think
Kirby,
it's Forgotten Lands.
yeah. So Kirby in the Forgotten Land comes out in March, and it's kind of the first 3D Kirby game. It's not 2D side scrolling like you're used to. You actually have an open world you can run in circles in. And also the entire game looks like it'll be co-op, which I'm excited for. Um, and I like how Nintendo every once in a while, I think they did this with Paper Mario Origami King. They randomly drop a trailer, it comes out in 2 months, and that's it. While I'm still really eager for a Nintendo Direct to happen, hopefully soon, I'm looking forward to this Kirby game. And like you said, you're not a fan of Kirby, but do you think that you tried this one, or are you just like not at all interested in Kirby?
Well, I'd play it at a friend's house. I don't
Yeah,
think I'll buy it. Like Nintendo doesn't have a
no,
Game Pass,
I
so I'd
know.
have to purchase it.
That's the thing. If
Yeah,
Nintendo had their own Game Pass and I could get Pokemon Legends and
right.
Kirby and Breath of the Wild 2 for $10 a month, oh, I'd be so happy. I'd save so much money that way.
Yeah,
Um,
that make me very happy as well.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My partner and I are looking for a new co-op game, and that Kirby one looks like it'll be a nice, like, 10 hours, cute, charming kind of adventure. So that's a wrap on our news for the week. Like I said at the top of the show, we are going to be going into our most anticipated games of 2022. So let me preface this by saying some of the games that we say might not even come out this year. Unfortunately, the pandemic has really shifted everyone's schedules. Things have release dates, but they're not concrete. Things are getting delayed, pushed back. So, if anything, these are the games that we hope come out in 2022 and the ones that we really want to play. So, as Noah, as the guest, I would love to hear what your number three most anticipated game is for this year.
Yeah, well, I could say that my third choice is the possibility of Fallen Order 2 coming out this year.
I think there's a chance it does come out this year too, because Respawn, minus working on Apex, hasn't dropped a game since the first one, right?
Uh, I'm not sure.
I don't think so, but
Yeah, I do know. I've read it's not
yeah.
coming from me. I read this, so they're aiming for the end of this year. And the thing
Mhm.
is, because they haven't shown anything, we have no grasp of how far along it is.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The one
so
thing the one thing I learned from last year is that if they can show Guardians of the Galaxy at E3, and we didn't know this game existed before that happened, and then that game came out 4 months later and kind of blew me away, anything is possible. Like they could announce Fallen Order 2 at E3 or digital E3 in June, comes out in November, polished, good to go. I hope so.
yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, I have no idea what they'd want to do, like what direction they'd want to take it in. If you'd even be Cal Kestis again.
I was gonna ask, like,
Right.
would you want to play as Cal again, or would you want like a different story in the same universe?
Mm, I I'd lean more towards a different story in the same universe. Like maybe you see Cal, but
Mm.
like
Oh, that'd be
I'd
cool.
like a customizable character. Like I'd rather have like
Oh,
my own Jedi.
choose your own Jedi, custom, like
Yeah,
have a whole like character creation at the start. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. Like if that's what I think they should prioritize,
Hmm.
like off of the first one. I think the way to go is do a lot more variety in combat and a lot more variety in customization.
I'm just thinking about it now. We might have like a whole like floodgate of Star Wars games coming out before
Mhm.
we know it. Between Fallen Order 2, the Quantum Dream, Star Wars Eclipse, I think it's called. Uh the people behind Wolfenstein are working on a Mandalorian game. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
Star Wars stuff coming out. The Knights of the Old Republic remake is supposed to be this year, I think.
Mhm.
Were you a Knights of the Old Republic fan?
Not really. That was
Okay.
before I really dove all the way into Star Wars.
Yeah, me too. So I wonder
Yeah.
if this year we'd have like Knights of the Old Republic, which is more of the you choose your own character, you make choices that impact the game, where maybe Fallen Order 2 is a little bit more linear in its storytelling. That'd be interesting. The one thing I'd love to see from Fallen Order 2 is just more planets. I haven't played it in a while. I know you played it more recently than I have, but I remember like there's what, 5 main planets in the first game you go to?
Yeah.
Maybe, and I feel like that they're some of them are pretty easy to 100%, or some of them aren't as interesting as the others. So I maybe want a bit of diversity as well as some planets that we've seen in Star Wars before.
Yeah, right. A lot of people are calling for Tatooine.
Listen, with Boba
Yeah,
Fett, I'm a little bit burnt out on Tatooine myself,
right.
but yeah. But if I'd like to go there and play in that world for a bit. I'd like to go to some of the other planets from like even like Return of the Jedi. I would like to go to that casino planet. That'd be fun.
Yeah, the casino planet and what else they could do a very small version of Camino.
Yes. You know what Fallen Order 2 should have? A pod racing minigame.
Yeah.
I think that is the one thing that was missing from the first game that would really just help cement the second one.
Hmm.
Any other hopes or expectations for Fallen Order 2 or what you want to see from it that's different than the first one?
Well, I'll be a bit more specific with the customization.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was pleased with it in the first game. The thing is, certain lightsaber parts just can't be used together. They just don't match because there are certain colors you can't change. So
Right.
that I'd like to see improve. I
Yeah.
make it so you can use any piece with any other piece because you end up with very similar looking sabers because there's some combinations that just look unnatural and that you don't want.
Yeah, they just like don't look good on the eye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You could they could maybe even try doing one of those like in Microsoft Word or PowerPoint where you're trying to change the color of something and you drag that dot around. They could do that for your lightsaber color instead of those
Yeah.
set
Oh
in
man.
stone colors. Just like yeah, I don't think that'd be that difficult to do even.
No, they've been doing stuff like
Uh,
that since like the PS2, where you have a
right.
whole like color scale that you choose which shade of whatever color you want to be.
Right. Yeah, it'd be cool if you could play as non-humans as well. But I
Yeah,
guess I guess multiple character models would be a lot to ask for if you're also asking for more combat styles.
I guess. But if we're going back to
Yeah,
like the like how much you can customize your character, like a game like
right.
Skyrim gives you like 10 classes to choose from,
Yeah.
and if a game from 10 years ago can do that, I feel like a new Star Wars game could be like, do you want to be human? Do you want to be a Wookiee? Do you want to be like what do you want to be? And that'd be kind of cool. And
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
even in the same way that Skyrim like NPC dialogue uh is affected by your species. Like somebody could say, "Hey Wookiee," or like something they could change a little bit of the writing and story around who you are, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be very cool. So, and also I'd like to see like more force user s kind of robes.
Hmm.
It like a lot of the ponchos in the first Fallen Order. I'm like, I just don't want to look that way. Like I get the idea is he's disguised. He doesn't want people to see him and see a Jedi. But if you're gonna play a Star Wars game as a Force user, you want to look the part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and let's see, and the combat styles. Yeah, I'd like to see it maybe being able to choose between I feel like it's a lot to ask, but like I'd like to choose from the seven forms, like kind of choose my
Mm,
attacks. Like I want this defense from the form freestyle. When I click this button, I want the form 7 offense when when
Yeah.
I use the trigger. Like that'd be really cool, but I feel like that's a big ask. That's a lot of animation.
But some real like player freedom in that sense of like how you want to
Right.
fight and all that stuff. Do you want to use like a two-handed lightsaber? Do you want to do like a one-hand
Right.
lightsaber and something else? Like having those options would just be amazing for the player.
Yeah, it really would be. Like it'd be so cool, but like it's so much animation, and then you'd also want more kill moves.
Hmm.
But yeah, that'd be a dream game though. It'd be so much fun.
Was I don't remember. Is there a bunch of side quests in the first game that you do, or is it mostly main story stuff?
There's the main story. I wouldn't call them side quests, but there are
Mm.
other objectives like finding all the lightsaber pieces,
Yeah.
finding all of the flora that BD1 collects, doing all the scans.
So yeah, so I guess what
Yeah.
I'd kind of want the most from the next Fallen Order game is actual side quests that maybe play out like Star Wars Visions episodes, like almost just like
Yeah.
mini stories are happening within the universe that don't affect your story. You're just kind of like almost like Geralt in The Witcher, where you're
Right.
playing The Witcher and you're doing these side quests that seem almost more detailed than the main story you're playing. Like I think it'd be cool if you were Cal and you flew to a planet and there's some hierarchy wedding happening and you had to help the groom do something to get ready. Like I don't know, there'd be some cool world building stuff you could do with
Yeah.
that.
You claim a child of surprise.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, Fallen Order 2, honestly, the past couple of weeks I've been thinking about that first game and going back to it. So just talking to you about what number 2 could be like is getting me hyped for that as well. So my number 3, it's gonna be a quick one. It's kind of it's an indie for sure. It's a game called Somerville, and they've shown it twice last year. And the thing that's important to know about this game is that one of the co-creators of Inside and Limbo, they left that studio after Inside to create their own studio, and this is their first game that they're releasing. So if you've seen or played Inside or Limbo, it is very similar to that. It's almost a 2D platformer with incredibly heavy and dark atmosphere to it. The trailers are incredibly vague with what they're showing you. Seems like you are a family man with your wife, your baby, and like your pet dog, and you're trying to outrun the apocalypse. It's kind of what I'm getting from it, though. It seems like it might be a little bit more scary than that as well. Inside obviously had a lot of creepy imagery and tense situations. So for me, Somerville is really high up there. It's like I said, it's a very small game. It could be 3 to 4 hours long for all I know. But from the two trailers I've seen, I can't wait to play that game. I've been anxious for the Inside follow up for so long, and this feels like genuinely the closest thing to that. So, did you play Inside or Limbo?
I didn't.
Yeah, those are really good if they're on Game Pass, and like they're short games too, so I definitely recommend them.
Okay.
What is your number 2?
My number two is going to have to be what's right around the corner, Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yeah, I am trying to stay cautiously optimistic about this one.
Yeah, I am as well. Yeah, one of the things I wrote a while back was just kind of trying to sort out like what is this game going to be,
Hmm.
and I still don't really know, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
Yeah, based off your research, if you were to try and sum up this new Pokemon game in like a couple sentences, how would you pitch it?
I think you have to find enjoyment in the world. Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect for anything the main quest line. If there are side quests, I wouldn't expect anything like that to be good going in. If it is, that's icing on the cake.
yeah,
Yeah, the thing you have to find enjoyment in is finding Pokemon out in the wilderness. Hopefully, there's more new ones than what we've seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a major emphasis on crafting in this one, which is
Yeah.
probably the first Pokemon game to really have that element in it that I remember.
Yeah,
I don't.
and to
Yeah.
to reinforce that, without without effective uses for that stuff, that's really going to become a chore.
Hmm.
But yeah, like hopefully the content is good enough that it's like Skyrim, where it's worth it to go make stuff because it's so cool to use.
Yeah, I guess like what I'm looking for, what I'm looking for the most in this game is the sense of exploration. Like I don't want to be going down like I don't think you'll be going down linear paths doing collect 5, Oranberry objectives. I'm looking forward to like finding hidden nooks and crannies of like hidden caves, maybe almost like a Breath of the Wild when it comes out, where I'll be talking to you and I'll be like, "Hey man, did you find that hidden polywag pond under the thing?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Wait, what are you talking about? I didn't know." Like I'm hoping that there's a sense of discovery in this game that is maybe not so apparent in the trailers I've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that too.
Hmm.
What I would say to expect out of the story is, I'd say they're probably going to tell the story that we already know, where Arceus reaches out at Spear Pillar,
Hmm.
creates what's there. Then there's Dialga Palkia, then it's the Free Lake Pokemon.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is to see them go a bit further. Like, I don't think we ever got the full story with, like, remember when you pick up like a plate in platinum and it has an inscription on it?
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, one of them says, these plates tell of the giant's defeat, which I guess we're meant to assume is like Regigigas or the other Regis being defeated by some
Interesting.
other Pokemon. So I'd like to see them go further into that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've always
go
been
ahead.
curious about Pokemon doing world building in its own world. Like,
Right,
has there ever been a Pokemon game where you're playing Diamond and Pearl and they acknowledge that Kanto exists? Like, I wish
right,
that there is some cohesive, narrative, even when it comes to legendaries, like you're saying, like a Deoxys or something. Show me the origin story of Deoxys in a
right.
game.
Yeah.
Like that'd be very cool.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction they're going in. I think, like, if they continue with these Legends kinds of games based on how this one's going,
Hmm.
they're going to revisit each individual region and pick a mythical. I guess, yeah, that's the classification for
Yeah.
Arceus, right? A mythical Pokemon from there to do the legend about.
Yeah. So I guess two questions. Number one, if they were to do another Legends game, do you know which legendary you'd want it to focus around in terms of like the history of?
Um, well, I'd assume they'd go to Gen 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd probably try to do Unova. So what are the choices? It'd be either Keldeo, Landorus, Victini,
Shaman?
Meloetta. Yeah.
Is Shaman
Shaman is
Gen
Gen
Yeah.
Gen 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For me,
I
I thought of Moltres, Zapdos, Articuno. I don't know what story you tell with those three birds, those three
right,
crazy birds, but like I don't know, those are three of my favorites. I'd love to see a world where like it's almost the same like feudal Japan era as Pokemon Legends Arceus,
right.
but there's these three guardian birds that like watch over the land or something. I don't know, but
Uh, Yeah, I can't wait to find out. So part of what you were saying about the cohesive world, yeah, I
mhm,
think a lot of people have wanted that for a while. Like, we know where Kanto and Johto are in relation to each other, and there's all these theories about where the others are just based on what we can see. Like, we're
mhm.
thinking Unova is on that same continent, like up and over, uh, I'm reversed, like over
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and that Kalos is like over here, and then Sinnoh would be like up here, and
Sun and
Hoenn's
Moon
an
is like
island.
lower equator.
Yeah, like you're trying to piece it together based on what we know.
Mhm.
Like most of it, well, not most of it anymore, but a lot of it is Japan. Like, remember when they couldn't decide, like, early on, if it was in our world, and they'd cite places that are real, like, oh, let's just go to Hollywood, the
Yeah.
Hollywood trip. Yes, that
Well, I
was
remember
so
like
fun.
I remember watching the TV show as a kid, and they'd reference like New York City, and be like, "Wait a minute,
Right.
Pokemon's takes place in the real world. That means I can have a Pokemon one day." And that was false advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, and they couldn't. Yeah, a lot of franchises, especially that one, like, can't figure themselves out early on. They end up doing something like that. Like, is this the real world? Is this not the real
Yeah.
world? They couldn't decide.
I do wonder, and I thought about this like last month, if they're in our lifetime, if we'll get a Pokemon game that incorporates all the regions. Like,
Right,
say it's an interconnected world where you can take a boat from Kanto to Johto. There's a plane that will go to Hoenn for you. There's a submarine that'll take you to Alola or whatever the Sun and Moon area was called. I wonder if we'll ever get like an interconnected, go to all the places, all the gyms on the Switch Pro U. Maybe that will come out.
Yeah, I'd expect it like if Pokemon ever ends, that would be like their big finale. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we run out of ideas. Yeah, here's the Pokemon grand finale.
Yeah, exactly. Pokemon Ultimate, they'll call it.
Yeah.
And then last question for Pokemon Legends. Are you going to start with Rowlet, Piplup, or Cyndaquil?
Oh, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
I did Piplup in my Shining Pearl run, so I think I'm going to go Rowlet on this one because I didn't play with Rowlet in Sun and Moon. So
Yeah, so it is going to be incorporated in the Pokemon home, right? Like you will be able to put Pokemon in there from Legends Arceus, I think.
I actually don't know for sure. I will look it up real quick though. If you want to think about which starter you would have.
Yeah, I assuming that it will be like part of the main series where you can transfer Pokemon. I'd go with Oshawa because I don't think
Hmm.
I have one of those, but I know I have. I what do you call it? What does Rowlet evolve into?
I know the middle stage is Decidueye. But I do not know the middle
Doocy
stage.
Dewey. Doocy
Yes.
Dewey.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a Doocy Dewey and I
Yep.
have a Typhlosion, but I don't think I have I think it's Samurott.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, it'd be Empoleon, right? Because it's Piplup.
Uh,
Oh wait,
Is it Pip? I thought it was Oshawa in
no,
Legends.
it's Piplup. It's the
Oh,
only OG fourth gen Pokemon is Piplup, and then you get Cyndaquil and Rowlet as well randomly.
well, I'll pick Piplup then.
Yeah, yeah, Piplup's a good bet. And then
Yeah.
I looked it up. You will be able to use Pokemon Home with Pokemon Legends,
Awesome. There
so
we
that's pretty
go.
cool. So yeah, like I said, I'm buying it day one. I am actively not looking up any more trailers. I know they dropped like a 13-minute gameplay
Yep.
preview. I'm avoiding it at this point. I want to go in knowing as little as possible and experiencing Legends as wholly and purely as I can. Um, so my number two shouldn't come as a big surprise. I am playing Dark Souls for a very specific reason, and that is because I am very looking forward to Elden Ring when it comes out next month. And for me, a lot of that hype comes around this will be the first FromSoft game I've been ready for at launch. Um, Over the past 2 years, I've gone into the genre and played Sekiro and Demon Souls and now Dark Souls. But I've never been actively waiting for one of these games for when they come out. And for the first time ever, I'll have to play one of these games without a guide because there will be no guides available for me to use. Um, and I think I go back to this so often, but that magical moment in 2017 when everybody was playing Breath of the Wild and they were like, "Did you see this? Did you see this?" I'm looking forward to that moment in Elden Ring, where if I'm playing against somebody and I said, "Hey man, did you go down to that well and find the hidden sword of Majora or whatever?" And they're like, "Oh my god, no! Did you find the secret bird that you can ride?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about?" For me, it's like the sense of mystery, the challenge. I always love when I see a boss for the first time in one of these games and their design just blows me away. So there's just so much about Elden Ring that I can't oversay. I'm not as looking forward to the George R. R. Martin of it all because that guy has other work he should be doing besides video games, specifically Winds of Winter, I would say. Um, but yeah, not much more to say about Elden Ring that hasn't already been said. I'm just looking forward to being a part of that like kind of a cultural zeitgeist when it comes out. And then that will leave you, Noah, with your number one most anticipated game,
Right. So my number one most anticipated game is going to be Starfield.
Starfield. Yeah.
It, yep. I can't wait for Bethesda's next adventure. I really think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I rewatched the trailer for it yesterday, and there's not a lot in that trailer to go off of, but it got me really excited to play a space adventure Bethesda game.
Yeah, I think the concept art that's come out thus far is really interesting.
Hmm.
I'm wondering like what exactly Constellation is going to be. Like, is it just a charting company? Like they get paid to make maps, and that's what you're doing? Yeah, and there's the whole what are they called the there's the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so here's your two factions of the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure which one I join, but or if they are joinable. I don't know, but yeah, it's going to be cool to experience those and kind of get the idea of like what's going on in this world, like what
Hmm.
are the issues that everyone's facing, and what do I think about that? And that's what Bethesda does. They make you think, make you choose.
Hmm. And I'm looking forward to Starfield for the exact same reason as I'm looking forward to Elden Ring. This is my first like big Bethesda game that I'm going to be ready for at launch. Growing up with Nintendo most of my life, unfortunately, Bethesda did not put their games on the Wii. I don't know why. Fallout 3 would have been perfect with motion controls. So for me, like I've played Fallout 3, I've played Fallout 76, I played a bit of Skyrim recently. This is gonna be the first time I'm ready day one Bethesda, and I'll be experiencing it at the same time as the world. And that to me is very exciting.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to be the like one of the first people that gets into the game. Like it's an entirely new franchise, and I was a kid when the other things started happening, and I didn't I wasn't one of the original journalists covering it,
Hmm.
but now I have this opportunity to be one of the first guys on this game, like talking about how great it is, and
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
I To anybody who is taking on the role of writing the guide for Starfield, I give you all the kudos in the world. If you need support, give me a call. I'll talk to you for a bit because that's going to be a lot of work, I imagine.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I'm also wondering how big some of these cities are going to be. Like
Me
they're
too.
advertising like that spaceport in New Atlantis,
Hmm.
and I see that like, man, this looks like it's going to be a huge place. Like, how many characters can you actually talk to? How many quests are there?
Can you go inside all the
Yeah,
buildings?
yeah.
What
How
are
many
we?
bugs are there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. How many forks can I steal before I get banned from this town?
Yeah.
um, they haven't revealed yet because one of my biggest questions going into Starfield is: are you flying between planets or is that the load screen? Because I'd love to be flying in space as well as like I'm gonna steer left. Ooh, I found a planet. That's kind of cool. I love like that part of it. I wouldn't
Right.
enjoy it as much if it was like choose a place to go, load screen, now you're there.
Yeah, so from what I know, I think you are going to be in space a lot of the time. Like they
Oh,
want to
cool.
optimize space travel, which that's a big challenge because you're walking a thin line between fun and chore there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I hope that's executed well, and if it isn't, then you know what, they might make adjustments. And when the modders get into it, then they'll
Hmm.
eventually have a mod for if you want to just skip this aspect of the game, you can do it.
Because like if you like think about Fallout, when you're traveling from town to town, you're actually walking across an area that is full of
Yeah.
monsters and traps and discoverable areas. But when you're confined to your spaceship going from point A to point B, is your ship going to be fighting space monsters? I don't think so. Are you going to be just doing like inventory management while you fly? Perhaps. And is that going to be fun? I don't know.
Yeah, so it sounds like, at least from Todd Howard, it sounds like he wants it to be like an episode of Star Wars, where it's not
Oh.
like where the ship gets boarded.
Hmm.
Like there's an episode in The Mandalorian where he crashes, that pirates board your ship. I think he wants things like that happening.
Can they just call the bad guys the Brotherhood of Space? Just make
Yeah,
it real easy.
yeah. There's the Crimson Fleet, and there's
Mm,
Spacers. I think is their word for like bandits. I think they're calling them Spacers.
interesting. So if there's gonna be like
Yeah.
space combat at all, I wonder how that will play.
But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I really hope it doesn't cause the console to crash. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that'll be the nice thing about playing on a Series X is that you're in the most secure spot for like playing this game and having not crashing issues. If you have a Series S, maybe you'd be a little bit more concerned because you don't have as powerful of hardware. But
yeah, definitely. I'm trying to get my hands on a PC as well
mm,
because I think it'd be really handy to have a work computer that I could game from. Like I could start twitching from there.
Hmm.
I could do all my editing on a PC. So yep, I've entered giveaways, seeing if I can win one. So we will
Hmm.
see. That I did not win the giveaway that ended last night. So still no PC.
In your opinion, because you are the Bethesda guy, in my opinion, I'm going to go to you with all the questions. In the Skyrim Anniversary Collection and the Special Edition, they've opened up mods to the console community. Do you think Starfield launches with a mods option, or do you think 2 years after launch they will allow mods on the console?
I don't think it will launch with it. And
Okay.
what did Todd in Todd's AMA? That I shouldn't call him Todd. To me he's Mr. Howard.
I
He's
thought you guys
big
were. I
Poobah
thought you,
Howard.
I thought you guys were like roommates based on how you're saying Todd so casually.
No, it is possible that he is also an Eagles fan. That I was trying to figure that out earlier
Oh,
because I found out I'm not sure if he grew up there, but
yeah.
he at least was born very close to where I went to college,
Okay.
which is Eagles territory. So I was like, hey, is Todd an Eagles fan?
Hey, if you
Uh,
find out, that could be like industry breaking news. Like that could be like
yeah,
number one most viewed.
yeah. Like if I'm ever fortunate enough to meet the man, I
Mm.
could talk to him about the Eagles.
And that's why I'm missing E3. It's like, oh, it'd be cool to go to a E3 place and like see some of these people in action.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be cool. So what was I saying?
On his AMA about
Oh,
mods.
oh yeah. So the plan is to have full mod support. I think he gave a time frame. I
Okay.
think he said a certain amount of months to get mod support, which could change.
Hmm.
And that sounds realistic to me. It'd be it, at most, I'd say a year from launch to have mod support, but it's going to be much longer than that before there's a whole lot of good mods.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people complain about Fallout 4, saying it doesn't get the same mod treatment that Skyrim does.
Hmm.
And the big part of that is a lot of modders prefer Skyrim, and a lot of the better ones have just kind of learned the Skyrim system and are much more comfortable with that than with the Fallout 4
Yeah, makes sense.
engine.
And I feel like these modders need a lot of time to work on
Yes.
their texture mods and their Thomas the Tank Engine mods.
Yeah. 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 Train Wiz is the man.
I,
He
I'm
gets a
gonna
lot
say,
done.
I bet you 2 to 3 days after Starfield launch, I see a video on YouTube that is your ship is just Thomas the Tank Engine in space, just chugging along.
Yeah, him. I'm actually acquainted with on LinkedIn.
Oh, nice.
I'll send him a note. Say, yeah,
Yes,
when are you going to replace the ships with trains?
yes, as soon as possible.
Yeah, so it yeah, so Fallout 4. I wouldn't say I expect this to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if this year a lot of great mods for that game started coming out because it would have been enough time. Like, think about how much time they've had to mod Skyrim 10 years. So it
Yeah.
took a very long time for there to be a lot of really, really good quest content mods in
Hmm.
Skyrim. So I'd say that may be coming the fall to Fallout 4. I think I saw someone actually working on a remake of Fallout 3, like in the Fallout 4 engine.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, that would be a huge, huge project.
Yeah, and even in terms
Uh,
of like even like quest mods, like I know something like the
yeah,
Forgotten City started as a Skyrim mod, and
yeah,
somebody has put like 8 years of their life into this one project, right?
yeah. Exactly. So I'm excited to see it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
flying around in my train.
is there anything you are slightly worried about before it launches?
uh, I'd s- I'd say bugs. And that's the main concern.
Yeah.
And I worry that they'll have some game breaking bugs to begin with. But
Yeah, that'd be awful to put 30 hours into it and then just for your game to break and you
yeah,
have to restart. Like, yeah.
yeah, I think they're playing this very well though. Like
Hmm.
based on how much content they've already gotten out there. Like I think that says that they're confident in this game
Yeah.
and they're pretty far along. So a lot of this time in between now and the release date is probably bug testing, bug
Yeah.
fixing.
And that's why, like, if they announced a delay on this game, I probably wouldn't be too mad because I'd rather
Right.
just play the best possible version of it instead of them, cyberpunking us again and they drop
Right.
it when they was scheduled with bugs and issues and yeah. So hopefully it's good to go once it comes out. I think Bethesda's come a long way since their last, like, obviously Fallout 76. Um, I hope that we don't see a buggy product like we're kind of expecting to.
Yeah, I hope we don't, and I'd say it definitely won't. Well, not definitely. I'm confident that it won't be that bad because
Yeah,
it's not like they're trying to make an MMO out of this thing. It's
yeah,
a type of game that they're familiar with, that they have a lot of experience with. So it may have some bugs at launch that I don't expect it to be nearly that bad.
yeah, yeah. My hopes are super high for Starfield, and like I said, one of the best parts about it is that I'll wake up one day, I can hit install on my Game Pass, and I'll be good to go in a couple of hours. Even if I can pre-install it, that I can just play it at midnight without dropping a cent, which would be fantastic. So my number one game is going to be God of War Ragnarok. There's a chance this game isn't my number one if it was not like the last part of a duology. So many games and movies and TV shows try and drag out their stories as long as possible, but I really respect that God of War had a really great game in 2018, and they're releasing the last part of that story hopefully this year. I see a different universe where they're like, we got to make as much money on God of War as possible. We're doing a trilogy, even though it's not necessary. We're doing a trilogy. So I loved the story in 2018's God of War so much. I can't wait to see how it actually ends. I think Kratos, like all the characters in that game are just fantastic. The combat feels so good to play. Exploration is fantastic. Um, and like I said, just like having the final chapter coming so quickly after 2018's game, I'm ready. And then at that point, they can kind of close the book on the Greek mythology, and maybe if they want to send Kratos to Egyptian mythology or something else in a reboot again in a couple of years, that'd be awesome. Um, no, I know you haven't played the first God of War, correct?
I have not.
You have not. Hopefully, you get that PC because that PC port I've heard really good things about. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok. It just if it is even the same level of quality as that 2018 game, I'll be happy. But there's a part of me that thinks it's going to be slightly better than I assume it will be. Whether that's through like a new weapon introduction or a twist in the story, I don't know. But I got high hopes for Ragnarok. If there's any movie or game that has Ragnarok as a subtitle, whether it's Thor or this, it's going to be a good thing, I hope. And then hopefully it comes to Game Pass eventually. No, not Game Pass. Hopefully it comes to PC eventually as well. So more than just the Sony people can play it. So those are my three. I'll recap mine real quick, and then Noah, if you want to recap yours. My number three was Somerville. My number two was Elden Ring. My number one was God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah, so my number three was Fallen Order 2, which may not be this year, but we're hoping.
Hoping.
Number two was Legends Arceus,
Mm-hmm.
and number one was Starfield.
Yeah. Did you have any like anything that almost made your list but didn't?
Uh, I don't think so. I think I made that list pretty easily.
Yeah. There's one I want to shout out as like an honorable mention. The new Plague Tale game, which for anybody who doesn't know what Plague Tale is, it came out a few years ago, and it's the game with the rats. Like it's a I don't even know what era it is, like Renaissance era. But you play as a character whose younger brother has mind control powers over rats, and not even like two or three, like oceans and waves and hordes of rats. And this first game is really good, and I did not expect a sequel to be announced at all. So when they did, and I see how much better the graphics look, the gameplay looks better, the voice acting is incredible. Plague Tale 1, I think, is on Game Pass too, as well. So if you haven't played the first one, I highly recommend it. It's maybe 7 to 8 hours long for a narrative journey with some really good puzzles, some good combat, and some good characters. The sequel, I'm hoping for good things for. So we shall see. And I think that brings us to a close to this week's episode. Noah, anything else you want to say before we close out?
Uh, Go Eagles! Yeah,
Go Eagles. Hopefully they win tonight. I don't watch sports. I'm unbiased. Go Eagles. You got this.
awesome.
Who are they playing against?
They're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the reigning Super Bowl champions, who
Oh,
have the best quarterback ever in Tom Brady.
All right, and then fill me in again. How close are we to Super Bowl season? Like that's next month, right?
Super Bowl will be early February.
So if Philly wins today, do they kick the other team out of the playoffs?
Yeah, and they do. It is
Oh,
elimination.
okay. So it'll be tense in the streets of Philly today.
It will. It'll be very tense.
Okay, well, good luck to them. And good luck to all of you listening to the show. First of all, I want to say thank you for tuning in to us every week. I love doing this show. It's so much fun talking about games with my fellow authors at KeenGamer, so I really appreciate the chance to do so. If you haven't already, please go to keengamer.com. Check out all of our reviews, opinion pieces. We cover games, movies, TV, you name it. We got it. Also, if you're listening to this and you have a moment, give us 5 stars on Spotify. It's a very new rating system that they just added. Those star ratings help us get more attention from people looking for good video game podcasts. And I'm proud of this product, and I hope more people are able to hear it. So without further ado, we will be back next week for another episode of the Keen Gamer podcast. Noah, thanks again for joining me this week.
Yeah, thanks
And
for having me, Kyle.
of course, I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.